Welcome to the American Made and Paid Show, the home of free speech and independent thought.
The big story is freedom of speech is really in trouble. The far left knows that at any time they can call for a sponsor boycott of anyone they despise.
It is right here, right now, where you'll get your weekly dose of unfiltered truth.
It's non-negotiable. Pre-existing conditions will be protected. This president has said this as a candidate.
Insight.
Very few people I know could have handled it. We can never, ever let this happen to another president again.
And information that challenges the American way of life.
Welcome, everybody, to the American Made and Paid Show. Zach here with Professor Dreg. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, as you know, the leftists like to call it, but it's really just Columbus Day. I don't know if you're going down to Columbus Day Park, but in San Francisco, just a quick story for the listeners, on Columbus Day, and I don't know how progressives feel about this, but you always go to, if you go to Little Italy, North Beach in San Francisco, all these Italians go to Columbus Day Park and have their Ferraris all like parked out there, and people just kind of walk around and inspect. I've participated in that little Columbus Day festivity. It's not really a day off that you get, though, right? Or do people have the day off today? I'm not sure.
Well, most people are working, but to no one's surprise, the government shut down today.
Okay, got it.
Seriously, I was thinking we had to go to court today, but it's a holiday, so we didn't have to go. So, yeah. So either way, so it's false alarm. I didn't even know it was a holiday. Didn't know. But yeah. So everybody's still working. Traffic is still heavy, but the government shut down. Libraries are closed. Courts are closed. But other than that, yeah, it's just another day.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go house hunting after the show.
Okay, awesome. Well, here's the deal about Columbus Day, right? Obviously, this is what people are gonna pick a fuss around. I remember seeing a lot of ads of more left-leaning Native American people talking about how Christopher Columbus was the worst person ever, and persecuting the indigenous peoples and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, Columbus didn't actually discover North America. The Chinese came to America a long time ago, far before Columbus ever did. And despite that, there were millions of people that had set foot in America prior to that. I think the reason why Columbus Day for progressives and leftists and all that is rather controversial is because of the whole colonization thing that they all seem to have a problem with, which is enslaving, massacring indigenous people, that type of stuff. But they were also doing that to each other. And actually, you mentioned something about Puritans, a couple, or the Pilgrims, when they celebrated Thanksgiving. Here's the funny thing, though, because the SJWs will find anything to complain about. They'll complain about Thanksgiving being like a bad holiday. And that's coming up in a month, so I might as well just address it a little bit on this show. But the truth is, the original Christian pilgrims, and I mean the real Christians, they celebrated the first harvest with Native Americans. Yeah. And I know that people are just like, well, if the Native peoples didn't, take on Catholicism, we're going to hang them up by their, and burn them and stuff. But that's the distinction I want to make. I mean, if you're talking about Roman Catholics, yeah, but the old original Christians, no, Thanksgiving was something they actually celebrated with the Native Americans, and not a lot of people know that. And of course, people don't want to know that because Christianity, anything you mention about that gets discredited. But what do you feel like? I mean, what's happening right now in San Francisco? Are people complaining about America's history of mistreating, the Native Americans and stuff? I mean, I'm not a fan of, obviously, the reservations, right? But that's all Democrat policies. That wasn't done by...
that's all Democrat policies. No, but the funny thing is every year it's the same crap. Christopher Columbus slaughtered all the Indians. That's not true at all. And you just said that. He was, I don't know what he was, Christopher Columbus, as far as his religion goes. But,
Catholic, probably.
Yeah, but he wasn't a true Catholic. He just went to them because they were rich and powerful. It's the truth.
Well, yeah, because back then the church and state were married. So if you came from Spain, if you came from a Catholic country, You know, see, that's the thing that people don't understand. Real quick, like historical lesson here. People think that like Catholicism was the original Christianity or whatnot, and that's not the case. Baptists are the original, right? Anabaptists. There's a long line of Anabaptists, of people that believed in the Bible, believed in the teachings of Jesus, you know, without all that fake pagan crap that, you know, some Catholics believe in. You know, it's just the truth, because the way Roman Catholicism came into be, just to give people a little bit of a background here, context, was because Constantine of Rome, who made his form of Christianity the standard for the Roman Empire, basically took it on and then legislated it. Like, we've had this conversation before, where all they did was they swapped out their pagan gods for saints, right? And, you know, it's not really what that's how Roman Catholicism came about, and it's prevalent in Europe because the Roman Empire was the biggest empire of the Western world before Europe was split into 10 parts. Really, that is the reason why. It's not because it's the original or it's the true. It's not. Okay. So back to, I guess, Native Americans in this country. I think that the history that gets reported, right, is obviously the history of the masses, which is, yeah, there were probably some killings and genocide that happened, but, you know, I don't think the Christians were responsible.
That's where I'll disagree. I don't believe Columbus was killing anybody.
I know what I'm saying is I don't believe he was either. But I mean, people talk about colonists doing that. I mean, what are your? I mean, from what you know, what are?
But that's the no. Okay, so the killings happened. Okay, so there's two.
Actually, no. I know what you're saying. The killings happened under Andrew Jackson, under Democrat.
Rule. Forget about Andrew Jackson. We're talking about explorers. So,
okay, yeah, right.
So from explorers, the two people who were killing everybody was Father Junipero Serra.
Junipero Serra.
Yeah, he was the one killing everybody on the West. He'd kill Chinese too. He didn't care who it was. If you were, you know, Chinese or Native American, Indian, if he didn't convert to Catholicism, he'd kill you.
Yeah,
that's how it works. And then the other mass killer, who was a quote-unquote colonizer, was Simon Bolivar. I don't know if you know who he is, but there's a statue of him, which is funny. This is why every single year I just shake my head and I think, man, San Franciscans, the progressives are so idiotic. It is remarkable how stupid these people are. But there's a guy named Simon Bolivar. There is a country named after him in South America. Every major country, their dollar is not a peso. It's called the Bolivar. Simon Bolivar killed every single Native American in South America. It's insane. An entire continent. Killed them all of them. So in Venezuela, in Colombia, any country, Peru, doesn't matter. They all use the Bolivar. They all love him. Why? Because he brought Catholicism. He brought all kinds of crazy things. But Simon Bolivar was this crazy ass dude.
But isn't it funny how America ended up becoming a Christian country and not a Catholic country? Because that's a big difference. Right?
Yeah, no, but it is. South America is, I don't want to say a shithole, but it's really bad. It's almost like a shithole. Almost. It's almost as bad as Africa. Because look, you had to be honest. Africa sucks. There is nothing redeeming about Africa. It's a shitty place. And South America is almost as bad as Africa. And it's probably because there's more, you know, because the thing is about Catholicism, at least it's they believe in Jesus. So if you believe in Jesus, there's a way to save yourself from the Catholicism, you know, because it's a big giant cult that a lot of people, I mean, even I have a hard time calling it a cult, but it might just be a cult because, you know, like, we were talking about this earlier, but Catholicism has a lot of similarities to the way the Samaritans believed in their idol gods that brought way to the Egyptian gods. You know, well, I guess the Samaritans were evil people who believed in all of these weird, you know, human animal type gods, and they were genetically mutating people, just like how they're doing in China today. It's amazing how crappy the Samaritan people were. But the Catholics are very similar to that. Mm-hmm. And you know, so, but the difference is they somehow brought in Jesus and manipulated, you know, because I still don't understand how people fell for it. And I'm thinking, because the Bible is so different than how they practice their faith. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing, because I'm thinking, how do you pick and choose what's in the Bible or not? And so anyway, so like Catholicism, I don't think people read the Bible. They just they trust in their pastor.
Well, that's the thing about that's why Catholicism is inherently flawed, is because a lot of the followers, right, can't even go and like, or if they did go and read the Bible, you would see that there's real conflicts there, because Christianity is all about the individual priesthood of the believer. You don't need to go to a priest. It's like going to a rabbi. You don't need to go to a priest to absolve you of your sins. And by the way, that's blasphemy. Only God can absolve you of your sins.
Yeah, no, but that's exactly, dude. But that's where I struggle with everything, because God is sovereign. That and you know, I like that, because I was reading about Ben Franklin, and Ben Franklin literally wrote that God is a sovereign person. And we are sovereign people. It's just amazing. But my point of bringing that up is because in the Catholic faith, you are not sovereign. You're not sovereign when you're a Catholic. Mm-hmm. You're not. Why? Because you got to kiss the hand of the Pope or whoever's hand. You know what I mean? Like, these priests are controlling you. You have to confess to these dudes what you did. Why? I don't know, but
and there's a bit of and I hate to say things like this, but it's already been exposed multiple times in the Catholic Church of this like quid pro quo between women and priests, where it's just like, oh yeah, you know, tell me everything you did wrong, and it's just like the priest is like, well, if you want to be forgiven, you gotta, you know, and it's like, oh man.
No, but you can manipulate. No, but you manipulate people that way. That's why it's, yeah, like the whole thing about confessing your sins. It's insane.
Well, once you have Christ, you confess to God. You don't need to go to a guy for that.
No, but that's the whole, see, and I'm telling you now, bringing this back to Simon Bolivar, he did the exact same thing. He was God. He was a God to these natives, and that's why they fell into Catholicism, because they're like, holy crap, this guy's going to kill us all. He has the power to kill us all. So it was easy to convert because they had that type of power over people. And you sent me that sermon, and he said the same thing. Like, he didn't say the same thing, but he said, you have to control it, not to use that power. But we said that before. A lot of people, they don't believe in God because they believe God controls everything. No, God has it under control. God can destroy us, but he doesn't. He allows us to make our own mistakes. Why do bad things happen? Because people always say that, why does God let bad things happen? He doesn't. The same way God doesn't let bad things happen, God doesn't let good things happen either. God stays out of our business. Our day-to-day business, God lets us do our own thing.
Right.
And that's the thing. That pastor, Stephen Anderson, I think his last name's Anderson, right? I don't know. I can't remember. I just remember his first name is Stephen. But anyway, so
he's great. He's fantastic. He's like the best preacher I think I've ever heard, honestly.
Dude, I know, I like him. He's funny. But no, because he's spot on so many things. But anyway, so when he said that, you know, like in the warrior spirit, you have to control it. You have to have it under control. But that's what God has. See, God has it under control. He doesn't destroy us because he allows us to make our own mistakes. He allows us to have our own successes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, you know, the whole, you know, thing about, you know, always, I won the football game. You know, that's God's will. See, but that's why that's wrong. But the thing is like this. God would never kill us the way, and I'm pretty sure it's in the Bible, because when he said he'd never kill us through flood, and we haven't died from a flood yet. It's been so many thousands and thousands of years. So although people do die from floods, but that has nothing to do with God. You know what I mean? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's easy for natives to fall for Simon Bolivar's bullshit, because why? He was God. Catholics teach that
the Pope is God, or whoever.
Not just, but what we were saying about works-based faith.
Well, no, not works-based faith, because if you read,
that's what Catholics believe.
Works-based salvation, not works-based faith. Because if it's a faith, then it's not of works, and if it's of works, it's not.
Yeah, okay. So works-based salvation. See, that's what the Catholics were showing. Hey, look, you got to do all these things, or else I'll kill you because I'm God. I speak to God. You know what I mean? That's what Simon Bolivar did. That's what Christopher Columbus is being accused of doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what happened. See, Columbus was not Bolivar. He wasn't. Two separate people. I don't believe Columbus was a true Catholic. He got money from the Catholics because why? He was an explorer. He wanted to see, he was a businessman. He wanted to go to China or India, wherever he wanted to go. He wanted to go there. He wanted to go to China.
He's looking for India. No, he was looking for India, hence the term Indians. And that's another thing they get triggered about.
Yeah. So he was looking for India. And he thought, look, the world is round. I could prove it. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to go this way when world's not flat. Whatever. But he needed money. Who had money? The Catholics. Why? Because the Catholics preach that, we just said it, works-based salvation. And that's the thing. So the Catholics teach that when you're rich, it's because God is giving it to you. And if you're poor, God is punishing you.
That's some carnal, earthly, worldly stuff.
But if you're an uneducated, and this is the thing about Latin America, very few people, the majority of the people in South America do not know how to read. They're illiterate. So if you're an illiterate person, which the natives were, they knew how to communicate and read in their language, but they didn't know Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know English. The Bible was not written in some kind of weird, I don't want to say weird, but Native American language. It was never translated to that. So this, Bolivar forced everybody to either convert or die.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why they believed in that work-based salvation, because they believe. Why wouldn't you believe it? If you're illiterate, never knew Jesus, why wouldn't you believe that God is punishing you the same way the Samaritans did, the same way the Egyptians did it? If you're illiterate and you're born into it, why not believe it? I've never seen metal in my life, plate mail. I've never seen chain mail. I've never seen plate mail. I've never seen a gun. These dudes must be wizards. What I mean?
You're right. You're right. To drop down, it's like, man, your ship must have fallen from space. You know what I mean? And they're probably just like, dude, what is going on here?
Exactly. So, and I think big distinction might have been just based on what he was doing and what Bolivar, because there was two great Catholic explorers at that time, Bolivar and Columbus. Columbus wasn't killing anybody. That's just a myth, because he was like, hey, live in peace, da-da-da-da-da. And that's what he was doing. Like you just said, they were sharing the first harvest together.
Right.
That's what they did. They did it in Canada. They did it here in the States. They didn't do it in Mexico, but no, because Mexico is one of those Latin American countries that believe in Bolivar. You know what I mean? Heavy Catholics. It's just how it works. And I'm not trying to be anti-Catholic, but it's just, they really bastardized the Bible. It's insane how, when you read it and compare it to what the Catholics do, it's insane. because, I like a lot of scientists come out of the Catholic faith, whether it's Da Vinci, whether it's the dude that came up with the Big Bang Theory, that helps prove that God created the universe based on what it said in Genesis. It's all great what they did, but as far as just pure faith, it's wrong. And I don't know how these smart people, but then again, a lot like Ben Franklin also admitted to not studying the Bible. He wrote down something 6 weeks before he died. He wrote down his faith, and he said it himself. He was like, I never studied it, and but he believed in Jesus, and he said that Jesus was like the greatest man who ever lived. Because it's the truth. When you understand what Jesus did, it's insanely incredible.
Because he's God.
Well, but the thing is, it's just a philosophy, because God was around for the Old Testament. There is a huge difference from the Old Testament and the New Testament, because I'm telling you now, the whole thing about the Samaritans, who were like the grossest people who've ever lived, and how Jesus can forgive them and try to say, hey, look, that's not how you change their hearts. You know what I mean? Like, he literally gave us the blueprint for world peace with the most grossest people on the planet. And the thing is, Christopher Columbus might have missed it. Obviously, Simon Bolivar missed it. Father Junipero Serra, obviously he missed it, because Catholics are always going to miss it. They're going to, do that killing thing. Although, and that's why I struggle with my own personal stuff, because I have that in me. And because I'll go back to that time with the 32 counts of attempted murder.
Oh my God.
I know, it was insane. But, the thing is like this. If my friend didn't have the machete, we'd all be dead. You know what I mean? And luckily nobody died. But you have to have that ability to fight and defend yourself, because, man, if you don't, then how are you going to protect your family? How are you going to do this? So you have to, you hate this to say this, because I'm really against fighting, but you really do have to know how to fight. You really do. Men have to be men. And through that type of strength, that's how you get people to listen, because it's in our nature to try to take advantage of one another. And did Columbus do that? Well, Columbus, look, he was looking for a shortcut. So you knew the dude was shady. You know what I mean? He's like, why cross through this land if we could just sail through water much, much faster, and we can go to India that much faster? So look, he wanted shadiness. He wanted an easier way. He wanted to be shady, get a leg up on the competition, instead of looking for fair competition. He was looking for an advantage, which is what we do. We always look for advantages, which is fine.
Right.
Because humans, we're flawed people. We are. We always want more or an easier way. It's just how it works. So with that, Jesus knew that for whatever reasons, because we just can't say he was God, he's God, because that's obvious. And that's not a good argument. No. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know.
So,
I just wanna... Go ahead.
No, but the thing is, so why was Jesus' philosophy so much better than anybody else in the Old Testament? Because the Old Testament depended on brute strength. You know what I mean? And that's not like, oh God, I'm going to talk about my former work just a little bit. But when you're interrogating people, right? Using positive reinforcement techniques, which involves punishment, as they say, to get people to behave a certain way. You can do that. I could beat the crap out of anybody, and I can get them to submit to my will.
Right.
But it doesn't mean they're telling the truth. They're acting out of fear. When you act out of fear, you're going to do anything. And, and these enhanced interrogation techniques, I've done so much great things to simulate like you could really feel like you're drowning. Like, like when you do, I don't know if you ever seen it on TV or whatever, like waterboarding, people put the cloth and
That's some torture though. That's like old.
no, but that is not effective because you can really kill somebody that way. So like I developed a new technique that will simulate drowning, but you're in no danger whatsoever other than having a heart attack, because you're so stressed out that your blood pressure but anyway, so you know what I mean? And knowing these types of things, that's wrong. That's not how you get to people to change their mind. They'll always be afraid of you, but hey, one day, like those Kung Fu movies, in the Kung Fu movies, you know why I like those Kung Fu movies? Because they always got revenge. Like there's a movie like The Legend of the Drunken Fist or something like that. So there was a Kung Fu master. He killed an evil Kung Fu master, but he took his son and daughter and raised them right to be good and whatnot, and so the Kung Fu master who killed the evil Kung Fu master, his son married his stepdaughter, and the stepbrother didn't have the same type of good Kung Fu techniques. But anyway, so he learned his father's evil techniques, and then he killed his stepdad, for revenge, even though he was a good dad or whatever. But the thing is, that type of revenge is normal because everybody always wants revenge for what you did to your dad or your parents or whatever, because like that just like the need for revenge sits in everybody's soul for whatever reasons. And that's just like pure evil. So Jesus was not about getting revenge. That's the difference from the Old Testament to the New Testament, is that whole thing about revenge. And it's not just unique to the Jews. It's in the Asian culture and all those Kung Fu movies. Everybody wants revenge. But that's not how you change people's minds. You don't use fear. You don't use force. Right. The only way is through Christ. It literally is the only proven way. No other person, not the Buddha, not Prince Siddhartha, none of those people have ever done what Jesus has done with his philosophy, his gospel. And that's why it's the truth. It is the absolute truth. So that said, going back to Christopher Columbus and how to tie this back to Christopher Columbus, Columbus's people made mistakes because they weren't Christian. They were Christian, but they were practicing a perverted Christian, not seeing what the founding fathers, our founding fathers practiced a type of Christianity that was pure, hence the name Puritan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not because a lot of people confuse the new Puritans with what people like Benjamin Franklin believed, or like the other dudes, not the Masons, because they were very much like the Catholics, but the other, I guess in a simpler term, just not Puritans, Protestants, like the regular Protestants who are trying to get rid of that, because I know if you ask a Catholic if they believe in God, they'll say, yeah, but they believe in a lot of gods. It's like they believe in God and a whole bunch of minor gods, because that's what saints are.
Yeah, I know.
They even worship angels. You know what I mean?
Why do you pray to Jesus's mom? Like, she's not a god.
No, but that's the whole point. You know what I mean? Oh, dude, like you don't even know. Like you got it. Like in the South Bay, they got this thing, and they do this thing for the Virgin Mary. Thousands of people show up, and they do all that. It's weird. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like what they did with that retarded girl from Sweden, in England or Sweden or something. They had they were crawling on the streets to save the planet. But that's what they do. The Catholics do the same thing. They crawl on the streets for whatever reasons, right? To celebrate the Virgin Mary. I don't know why they do it, but they do. They crawl for about 2 miles. It's insane. It's just an insane practice that they do. I'm thinking, what is this? You know, I mean, it's like, and that's why people are atheists, because they look at it thinking, this is like the craziest stuff. How is this helpful? How are you crawling around in the street is helpful to anybody? Why would God want you to do that? Or in the mindset of those protesters trying to save the planet, why would the earth care if you're crawling? You know, to save the planet from global warming. It's funny. Yeah, this happened like a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, going back to the point of, you know, Christopher Columbus and whatnot, I believe he was a great man. You know, he was a great man who really didn't understand Christ, and that's why they made mistakes. But not a lot. He did not kill people. You know, him bringing social diseases might have killed people, and were they having sex and doing bad things? Like, yeah, of course. Were those germs killing the natives? Yeah, but in return, the natives were also killing the whites with their germs, because they shouldn't have been fornicating that way. They shouldn't have. Seriously, they shouldn't have done it. But they did.
That's always really funny when people say, well, they came over and they brought disease. But that only happens because people were doing exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
right?
no, but it's the truth. Like, what disease? Syphilis. Well, yeah, that's a sex disease. That's not like something that floats in the air like a common cold. So, you know, and a lot of viruses beyond syphilis, you know, bacterial diseases, just a lot of dirtiness was going on. And that's the real truth. The truth is they shouldn't have been doing what they were doing. There's reasons why you're only supposed to have one wife. And Columbus and his crew, they didn't respect it. They did it. Why? Because they weren't real Christians. You know, it's just how it works. So, you know, I believe that, you know, we celebrate Columbus for what he did. You know, he's not God. He wasn't Jesus. But look, he was a great explorer. He knew something about science. And he did. He knew a lot about science. And that saved his life. He tricked a lot of Indians to get out of trouble. You know what I mean? Because they were silly. You know, I don't want to say they were primitive, but, you know, they were primitive people. But I don't want to say primitive either, because that's also wrong. It's not that they were primitive. They just didn't have a need to live in excess or to live in, you know what I mean? Like, they were at peace with nature or one or whatever. And although they were warlike animals killing each other, but when they were in their little tribe, they were peaceful people. You know, they lived in peace and harmony with nature, but they just couldn't get along with other natives. You know, that's the truth. So the native Indian people were warlike people. They were warlike people, because people don't get it. How did the Mayans get destroyed? Was it really just a band of Catholics coming off a couple of ships? Cortez literally killed millions of Indians, and that's how it happened? No, Cortez recruited hundreds of thousands of other native tribes from Central and South America to attack the Aztecs. He built an army. That's how it works, because white Indians were savages. But were they primitive? I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say that they're primitive. But the one thing that they all have in common, Cortez, Columbus, nobody believed in Christ. Not one of them. That's why they were always warring. Just like in the Old Testament, the Samaritans were always at war. The Egyptians were always at war, enslaving people. You know, that's how they did it. That's how they did it, because why? Nobody believed in Christ. And the bastardization of Christ has been happening since he passed away. And then once...
Well, he rose again, and now he's up in heaven. But
yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, take that aspect apart. But people have been bastardizing his teachings since the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people, even in his day, didn't understand what he was saying, and they took it the wrong way. Like all the Jews.
I was going to say, that sounds like the Jews.
No, but it's the truth. I mean, from the very beginning, the Jews couldn't let go of their carnal mind. They couldn't. You know, Jesus said to do it. They don't want to do it. Why? Because why should they? They're not being judged right then and there, and they don't want to listen to a man. And that's the problem with Muslims as well, with the Chinese government, the people of China. Think about this. Recently, and I think we talked about this on the show, the NBA thing, right? When that guy from the Houston Rockets, the owner, the general manager, he made a tweet in support of the people looking for democracy.
Sure.
Those Christian kids. They really are Christian kids at the university. So a lot of those kids are Christian. Shit, they killed that one 14-year-old. So when they talked about that in support, like, hey, look, man, we got to support these people. China went apeshit crazy, and they banned the NBA, da-da-da-da-da. And all of those NBA players were like quiet. Steve Kerr, quiet. What's that other guy? Popovich, Greg Pop, quiet. And here's the thing. They could celebrate Colin Kaepernick, who kneels during the national anthem to stop police brutality, right? All the athletes are down for that. But when they are called to do something, hey, there's real people trying to get freedom. And they're not saying anything. Why? Because they're not real Christians. All of those people, because he sent me that link of that guy, the black dude who mentioned Jesus Christ, and he got cut off on his mic. The thing is like this, and this really does tie into Columbus Day, because this goes back to and this is just another story of the Samaritans. If the Christian people cannot love the neighbor or show compassion for the neighbor and just speak up, because these NBA players are powerful in China. This is their Christian moment to spread Christianity in that country if they chose to do so. Steph Curry is a real prominent Christian dude. Married his high school sweetheart, has 3 kids with her. But he does not understand Christianity either. I know he is a I forgot what you call it, but
workaholic?
No, work faith. What's that?
Works-based salvation?
Yeah, work-based salvation.
But that's not what Christianity is. Christianity.
Exactly. That's my point. So all those NBA players, all those football players, they study that work, faith, salvation. And that's wrong, because if they are honest to God, true Christians, they would reach, because look, the NBA, you know how many people are signed up for China NBA in China? I was shocked to hear this number.
I actually don't pay much attention. So what's the...
It is huge. It's 478 million people actively participate in the China NBA, as far as fans.
Oh, fans. Okay. I was going to
the fans in China.
That's more people than the entire country in the United States.
I know, by 100-something million. That's insane.
But China's also a massive country. You got to understand.
Yeah, it's 1-something billion.
Yeah.
So, but that's still 30%. No, let's see, 28% of the country follows the NBA. That's a huge. Think about that. If 20% of the country automatically just turned to Christianity, that could happen. It could honestly see these dudes, if they're honest to God Christians, they could start a big evangelical movement in China that would be unheard of. Think about that. If you turn China into a pure Christian country, where they honestly understand Romans and the first and second commandment, like the way Jesus wanted to with the Samaritans, that's how we do things. We do things based on what Jesus says. First, second, Romans. If you understand that, you can change the entire planet. And the NBA has
Precisely. That's what the gospel's all about, is sharing Romans and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
The problem with a lot of people's gospel sometimes is that when you told me, when you accepted it, it was because you said no one ever broke it down. You need people that know the Bible breaking it down, not just saying, because sometimes, there's also the kind of watered down Christianity where people are just trying to appeal to the masses, right? Where it's like, Jesus was a cool guy, he was this. It's like, nah, man, Jesus was hated for his stuff, and and he even said out of his own words, you will be hated for my name's sake. Like, this stuff is not meant to people. The mainstream will not accept this type of stuff. That's why I even told you a long time ago, if I was more into politics and everything, I'm telling you right now, dude, I got some beliefs and things that I will say that will just not be accepted. Remember that video I sent you of that guy who talked about, we need to be spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ to everyone. The lady, like, it's so I'm like, oh, this is what I'm talking about, though.
No, I like that guy. I really do. I like him. I really do.
That's a good guy. He's a good guy.
But I believe but see, the NFL's not big in China, though. That's the thing. Like, so they don't care about him. But like, man, that's why it really pisses me off, because Steph Curry, because Steph Curry is one of the biggest celebrities in China. Klay Thompson has like $80 million shoe deal in China. So he don't care. Every year he goes to China, but he's not really a Christian dude. He's just like whatever. And but he's one of those, I hate saying this term, but faith-based salvation type of dudes. Mm-hmm. But seriously, when his life is doing well, it's God's glory. But when his life is doing bad, it's, why is God punishing me?
Oh,
no, but it's terrible. But all of those athletes are like that. They really are, so many of them. And that's why they remain silent. And I really want to bring that point up. Think about this. Why are they celebrating Kaepernick, but yet somehow, some way, what's happening in China, where they actually have a platform, they have a bigger platform in China than they do here in the United States. In the United States, most people see these athletes as goofs. But in China, these guys are bringing a culture and changing culture in China. Mm-hmm. And that's why China blacked them out. Seriously, they threatened to take away their $4 billion. And then right away, everybody's in line say, hey, man, China's great. What they're doing in China's not bad. I'm thinking, dude, they're killing Christians out there. Mm-hmm. Seriously, like, they were killing them. They're squashing the Christian churches because it's, these Koreans are spreading it too quick.
Yeah.
And so they put an end to it. Like, if you really study what's happening in China right now, it's scary for the missionaries, the Christian missionaries out there, because they're being blamed for all of this sovereign. We want to be sovereign people and whatnot, but it's just how it works. I mean, even Ben Franklin said it. God is a sovereign being. Mm-hmm. He is the creator. He created this universe. He is sovereign. He made us sovereign, and we have to love one another, based on the teachings of Jesus of the Nazarene and all this other stuff, or whatever Ben Franklin said. But I agree with that. I agree with everything Ben Franklin said. Mm-hmm. And that's how this planet will be heaven one day for everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's how it's supposed to be, regardless of our differences. I honestly believe that through Christianity, everything can change in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, it'll change that quick. But the only way to stop it is to get rid of all of these kings and judges from the Old Testament. It's the truth. Like in China, it's like the Old Testament days. Same thing in Vietnam. Same thing in Latin America. It's just like, dude, it's like everybody's a bunch of kings and queens and the judges, they all control everything. And it's creeping up in progressive ideology here in the States. Our politicians are now judges, are now kings and queens. Think about this. Kamala Harris did not want, okay, so this guy, he was accused of rape and attempted rape. He did his 9 years, and he was convicted in 92. Mm-hmm. And he was released in like 2001 or something like that. So this guy proved his innocence when he got out of prison,
Right.
through genetics and all this other stuff and testing. So he got a judge to reverse his decision. So right now, today, what he's doing is trying to get compensation for the 9 years that he spent in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Kamala Harris told him, no, you still got to register as a sex offender, all this other stuff, because she's trying to, threaten him and intimidate him into dropping the lawsuit against her. Because she refused to look at any evidence and or even follow the judge's order.
Right.
So, because of that, she's going to get, not that she personally, because she's immune to lawsuits, but it's going to hurt her presidential campaign. Because, how can you wrongfully convict a man who's innocent, proved his innocence, went to the judge reversed everything, he did his time? You're going to tell me that he is owed nothing? He deserves whatever he's going to, come on, he was in prison. That's crap. And he's, you hate to say this, but because he's Mexican, it ain't good for Mexicans in prison. Because, they got smaller penises and
like drove that home real quick. I mean,
no, but it's the truth. It's like Mexicans get raped or participate in gang raping each other like it's the thing to do. Seriously, you never want to go to prison if you're, because like the white dudes and the blacks, they do it, but not at the same rate as Mexicans. So this dude went through hell when he was in prison. An innocent man went to prison, and he just stuck it out, man. Like, he really stuck it out. And then he proved his innocence once he got out. You know what I mean? He wasn't like those kind of, his faith is strong. But that said, he wasn't whining about it like, oh, like the way a lot of proved his innocence, and he fought the system, and he won. And it actually led to the real rapist. Not only did he prove his innocence, but they actually found the real rapist. Right. Can you believe that? All of that, and Kamala Harris still doesn't want to compensate him. She's still saying she was correct for what she did. And I'm thinking, that's how bad Christians think. They see themselves as judges or appointed by God to do all kinds of stuff. So they're
worse.
But their judgment cannot be questioned because God appointed them. Just like how the kings used to think that, oh, God chose me directly to be the king. God doesn't care about that. But the Jews believe that. See, Jews believe that kind of stuff. Because God is merciful, and therefore, look at me, I'm on the top of my game with all of my riches, and I'm a very fancy lawyer, or I own this diamond shop
or a bank.
No, but that's how they think, because God chose them. But that's not how it works. But once you understand what Christ was saying about the first and second commandment, what he was saying in Romans, what Paul wrote, you know what I mean? Once you understand that, then you understand how to act, how to behave, understand that we are not equal. You know what I mean? We have to do what we can for not just ourselves, but eventually for others. See, Kamala Harris she doesn't understand that. And she doesn't love herself. Why? Because she was with Willie Brown. Are you kidding me? How can you be with a guy like that? That's insane. But she doesn't love herself. So how can she love somebody else? She doesn't. She allowed another dude to spend 9 to 11 years. Oh my God. Like, I can't imagine. And you hate to stereotype, but you have to stereotype because that's how it works. When you're a Mexican dude in prison, man, good luck to you. But it's just how it works. So, this whole system is, well, not the whole system, but for progressives, everybody's a king, everybody's a queen. Name a progressive, and that's the thing. That's how they think. Try to contact any person in Congress. they will not get back to you for sure if they are progressive. They won't, unless they could use you for some kind of media hype. But their word is not contested. Why? Because they think they're God. Shit, they're gonna contest the what Jesus said, but somehow, some way, you can't contest what they say. They made themselves immune to any type of fairness, not equality, just fairness. You know, we're supposed to have a fair, just system, because that's how the Christianity system has made it. Because think about this: if Jesus can forgive the grossest people who've ever lived, the Samaritans, how can we not live together in peace in the States? How can we blame Christopher Columbus when he did nothing really wrong? You know what I mean? We should give, some kind of homage to him and say, hey, look, good job being shady, trying to find a faster way, a leg up on the competition. But the thing is, it's like, how did we allow this to happen? How did we allow these people to be gods? And it's the same thing with our cops. Our cops, their word is uncontested. They're like this. See, now, if we were to compare, and this is why, I don't want people to think I'm anti-Catholic, but dude, it's a cult. Our system is built on a cult. Columbus brought Catholicism. The other guys brought Catholicism. You know what I mean? And the Protestants, they came later, which is fine. The Baptists and all these other people, modern day, because I believe modern day Baptists were like the old dudes from the Puritan days, like the Ben Franklin days. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Because that's why I really like the Baptist people, because they're more like Christians, like how it should be. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That was a tangent. But the thing is like this: if you look at the Catholic structure and you compare it to our modern progressive culture and structure in the major cities, think about this. The gods would be the politicians, and the saints would be people like the cops, the social workers, meter maids. You know what I mean? The Catholics, they pray to these saints, but they know that somehow, some way, God is bigger than the saints, but they keep going to the saints anyway for all these helps and stuff like that. But it's the same thing in our system. We don't directly talk to our politicians because they're untouchable. Oh my God, Ro Khanna, he has been elected the congressman in our Santa Clara County. Oh, but we can't talk to that guy, so we'll talk to his minions. We'll talk to one of his, saints, because he's God. He's Jesus. Ro Khanna. Oh my God, did you know, because this is tangent, but you know that retarded girl from Sweden? The
Who?
The girl, the retarded girl, the Asperger's chick, the one that's save the planet, always crying and looking all crazy.
Oh, Greta
Thunberg. Yeah, did you know the Church of Sweden called her Jesus Christ? That she is the second coming of Jesus? I am not kidding you.
Oh,
that's how crazy them freaking people are out there.
People that lost their minds.
But I'm not kidding. They literally said that she is the second coming of Jesus. And then Sarah Silverman made a little joke about it. And then, but maybe she was serious. She's like, look, I'm a Jew. And these Christians, I see Jesus all around, and it's in her form. And I'm thinking, but whether it's a joke or not, but she still made that comment after the Church of Sweden, which is a Catholic-based church, called her the second coming of Jesus. Can you believe that? But anyway, no, but people think that, the listeners out there, they might think I'm crazy with my assessments, but they're spot on.
No, you're right. I believe you. I believe that. I know what you're saying.
But it is our government structure is built on a Catholic structure where our politicians are God of a little pond or whatever, and the saints are all of their minions, whether they're cops, whether they're the judges, whether they're all social workers, we have to go to them for help, permission to even park a car, even to, build a house. We need their blessing in order to get it done. And that's insane.
It's set up very similarly, and it's true because a lot of it shouldn't be the case, but a lot of the money is controlled in that regard too, as well. And the Vatican has a butt ton of cash.
Yeah, it's the biggest bank. The Bank of the Vatican is the biggest bank in the history of the world. Seriously, it's bigger than most countries, GDP, gross national product, or whatever it's called. But the thing is, it really is the most bizarrest thing to wake up to. Because it's just like this awakening I've had, and it's just like, man, I can't believe it. We are living in a Catholic system, just like Columbus brought Catholicism. Somehow, some way, and I still don't believe Columbus was a true Catholic, because he was doing things his own way.
Yeah,
but it was the Puritans, like the hardcore Protestants, which is probably the modern day Baptist people. They are the ones, or anybody, forget about Baptists, anybody who believes in Christ, just knows that Christ saved you. That's all you need. But every single person who believes in that work-based salvation, dude, that's all Catholicism type stuff.
Yeah, it is. You're right, because that's the big thing, is they believe in works-based salvation. But how could it be works-based, and how can that be true if we're all sinners and there's no way we'll ever be perfect? Right?
But here's the thing. That's all true. So how do we stop it? But we have to stop with our fighting, stop with our violence, stop with because everything that, like, Columbus himself didn't kill anybody, but he did bring violence and weird sects and a weird religion. He did. And he incorporated with the Native American Indians. And that's the problem. Once we have to let go of all of that. Mm-hmm. Our biggest obstacle is letting go of our carnal desires, whether it's to become billionaires or whether it's become, and the thing is, just because you're a billionaire doesn't make you evil, just makes you better at business than most. And that's why I like Bill Gates. Bill Gates I don't know if he's a Christian or not a Christian, but I do like, because I told you the story about when I met him, right?
Yeah, and he just did a whole charity drop. Yeah,
it was, dude, and we got $50K on top of that. That was even like, you know what I mean? I mean, I know that shouldn't be what I like the most, but it's the truth. Like, people like that, they're humble people. They do what they do, and who knows what he believes in. But is he a bad man? No, he's just a regular dude who's super rich. He's not like that Zuckerberg dude, trying to make his own money.
No, but I will say this, though. I mean, he's very charitable, right? Similarly, also to Warren Buffett, Warren Buffett is a Christian. That's an example of a rich dude who, is sort of, they're charitable. I'll tell you who isn't, though. Jews.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't say that to criticize anybody, but if you look at, I don't know, your George Soros and your banker Jews and your Howard Schultz and, and just like.
Because they don't believe in that, though.
Yeah.
They honestly don't believe. They believe in that whole, and look, I get it. They were the chosen people initially, but all of that stuff went away. When Jesus was telling us that story of the Good Samaritan, it was more than just don't judge a book by the cover. Mm-hmm. It really is. It was a blueprint on how to live, how to take over evil empires, how to make money in a good way. Because you can make billions through Christ. You really can. Mm-hmm. But you have to understand that it is not work-based salvation. Once you understand that, then your money's going to be clean. And then you can do whatever you want with it. But most Christians, and they'll probably do a Bill Gates type of a deal. I don't know if he's Christian or not, but the way he gives out his money, does it without fanfare. You can go through his foundation But what he does is he gets a lot of other people to donate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just him. So because he needs his billions to keep Microsoft going. You know what I mean? So what's better? Being a billionaire, employing people to teach them how to work, or just focusing on charity? And I think what Bill Gates does is good. Like, he gets people to love one another through his foundation, but he's also getting people to work so they can have their own money too as well.
Right.
I think I told you my boy who has patents that Microsoft uses, Google, everybody uses his patents, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Bill Gates being a billionaire allows my boys, who invent things, who just are geniuses with a lot of things, whether it's because, like, my boy, he has this thing with AI that he can do. So, you know what I mean? He can get paid $300 million easy for what he does. And he should. But if we don't have billionaires, how are other people going to come up? It's just how it goes. We cannot depend on the government. We can't do all of this stuff that, Christopher Columbus may have envisioned, on his trips and developing government systems. But the only system that will honestly work has to be through Christ. It's the only way. And we could still, and the thing is, we can still maintain our sovereignty. That's the whole thing that people don't understand about God. God is sovereign. And because he's sovereign, we need to be sovereign too as well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, gosh darn it, there's so much to cover, so much to talk about. But, and I know our hour is almost up, but I don't want this to be like a Christian show only, but I'm trying to make it where it's like a street level understanding of how politics works, how economics works, how violence needs to stop, and why is it bad?
Right.
Why? Because when we only fight, then everybody's our enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And that can't be. We have to use our strength. Like now, because here's the thing. Instead of punching somebody, I'm going to just hold my ground. I could restrain a dude just as easily as knocking him out. You know what I mean? Not with my punching. I just slap, it's because you can generate more power with the slap. Just, you know what I mean? And just, it's faster because when you punch, it's a different direction. But when you slap, it's like you could torque like swinging a bat. You know what I mean? But you just got to have strong,
Yeah. Well, we do got to wrap it up because I got to hop on a call soon here.
Yeah.
But no, this was great. Let's follow up more about this, especially the economics of it in the future episode. And then we'll all chat soon, guys, right?
All right, cool.